Good morning, everyone. Calling the case of Toad vs. Smash Brothers. Are both sides ready?
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready, Your Honor.
Very well. Your opening statement, please, Prosecutor Andre.
Your Honor, Toad got screwed in Super Smash Bros. Here we have the long-serving and dedicated personal servant of Princess Peach, and he's been relegated to a mere human shield. And even then, only for a single move of Princess Peach. Where does she keep him anyway? Toad's face doesn't lie. It's undignified, as well as being a violation of the Mushroom Kingdom Accord. Toad should not be disrespected like this. In fact, he deserves to be a playable character in Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo Switch.
Objection! Toads are a species, not a single character.
Overruled. Please continue, Prosecutor.
I've got one word for you, Derek. Yoshi. Just because someone shares the same name as their species doesn't mean that they're not also a character. And in Toad's case, as in the Toad, he's generally distinguishable by his blue vest. And Toad isn't just a character, he's been a major character throughout the entire Mario series.
Objection! Toad is not a major character.
Overruled.
Toad isn't a major character? Come on! Toad's been there since the very start. Consider this. He's the only non-enemy character from the original Super Mario Bros., you know, the one from over 30 years ago, who still isn't playable in Super Smash Bros. And while he might have just been an NPC back then, he was quickly upgraded to playable status in the American sequel, Super Mario Bros. 2, right alongside Princess Peach. And in more recent years, Toad has also been playable in other core Mario titles too, including New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Wii U, and most recently, Super Mario 3D World. So how is it that Toad went from being equals to this? And Toad's career has been even more prolific in the spin-off games, appearing in some capacity in practically everything. Whether it's any of the billion Mario Party games, or one of the Mario sports games like golf, tennis, baseball, or soccer, and he even had a somewhat puzzling starring role in Wario's Woods. Yeah, Toad's been hanging with the big boys from the very start. Consider this. Toad is the only character that's appeared in every single Mario Kart game who still isn't playable in Super Smash Bros. That's ridiculous. Especially considering that Wario, who was created nearly a decade after Toad and has also been in every Mario Kart game, was added to Super Smash Bros. Over 10 years ago. And in case all of this isn't evidence enough, Toad is currently the star of his own entire series with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. In fact, Captain Toad specifically might be the best representation of Toad yet, and might be the ideal way to portray him in Super Smash Bros. Switch.
Objection! They aren't all the same Toad. Red Toad, Blue Toad, Yellow Toad, and Captain Toad. You can't have every Toad in Super Smash Bros.
Overruled.
Whoa, easy there, Dr. Seuss. Even I'll admit that the line between when a Toad is the Toad can be a bit fuzzy at times, as with Yoshi. But it's also beside the point. Toads are generally all meant to evoke the same basic ideas and personality traits. Even Captain Toad is basically just Toad with a headlamp strapped on. Now sure, Captain Toad is technically distinct from the Toad that's Peach's servant, as made clear in Super Mario 3D World with both appearing in separate roles. Although things do get a bit more complicated considering both seem to be really close to Toadette. But I really don't want to get into that.
Objection! Wait, never mind. I actually agree with that.
My point is that Captain Toad as a character is the essence of Toad, but infused with even more personality and an even greater presence than we've seen before. Toad has always been portrayed as a timid, happy-go-lucky guy, and that's even more the case with Captain Toad. Even Captain Toad's skill set is directly lifted from Toad's very first playable appearance in Super Mario Bros. 2, plucking turnips like few others can, but at the expense of not being able to jump very high, or at all in Captain Toad's case due to the weight of his backpack. And it's for that exact reason why Captain Toad would be perfect for Super Smash Bros. Switch. He celebrates the essence of Toad while having the clout of headlining his own series of games to back up a potential Smash Bros. Appearance.
Objection! How would Captain Toad even work in Smash Bros? He can't even jump!
Overruled!
And Captain Falcon was never playable outside of the Blue Falcon before either, but it's those exact limitations that lead to the most interesting opportunities. For instance, as we just mentioned, Super Mario 3D World established that Captain Toad can't jump because of the weight of his backpack. So, what if his moveset is based around that very limitation? He could swing his backpack around for not just normal attacks, but smash attacks too. Then perhaps he could set it down and use the backpack straps to launch himself like a catapult. Or maybe his backpack could partially absorb damage from the rear. But what exactly is in that backpack anyway? Well, that's exactly what you'd find out when Captain Toad reaches inside to throw something at his opponents. It might be a random piece of treasure that he's collected, or a turnip, or maybe some random enemies from Super Mario Bros. 2. Why not? I mean, Captain Toad's been everywhere, so why not Subcon 2, right? Now here's where it gets real, because what if Captain Toad's bag actually got lighter with the more items that he empties from it, which would gradually let him jump higher and higher with each discarded item. Basically, he would start as a heavy character, but become lighter throughout the match, which would make him more maneuverable, but also easier to KO. So this could open the door to a variety of new strategies, such as whether to unload all your stuff as quickly as possible to help out your air game, or maybe hold on to it as long as possible to weigh yourself down and avoid being smashed off the platform. But what if you do get smashed off? Well, maybe Captain Toad could lose the bag by jumping off of it in a last-minute recovery. Although that would mean he wouldn't be able to recover again, so the idea might be a little bit too crazy unless the bag respawned after a few seconds. So instead, maybe Captain Toad could unroll the map that he carries with him everywhere and ride it around as a temporary magic carpet. You know, like back in Super Mario Bros. 2? Now, I know what you're thinking, Your Honor. Captain Toad is all about tracking down treasure, not throwing it away. And that's exactly where the map would also come into play. Because if Captain Toad glances at it during a match, icons will then appear on the screen marking where treasure awaits. He just has to dig for it in that spot. Captain Toad can then pocket that treasure to weigh himself back down, while also saving those items for use as projectiles later on. As you can see, Your Honor, there are a lot of possibilities with this mechanic, and I think it would make Captain Toad a truly unique and fun guy.
Objection! That was a terrible and overused pun, Your Honor.
Overruled! You may continue.
So in closing, Toad, and more specifically Captain Toad, absolutely deserves to be in Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo Switch. He represents the very best of Toad's long history with the Mario series, while also being a breakout star in his own right. His alternate color schemes could even be used to pay tribute to all the Toad variants that came before him. Maybe even Toadette could be one of them. She was even playable in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker after all. Add on to that an incredibly unique moveset that only Captain Toad could bring, and we have a clear candidate for a newcomer in Super Smash Bros. Switch. I rest my case.
Well, I've heard enough.
But I haven't even made my counter-argument yet.
Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Captain Toad should be in Smash Brothers.
Psst, Master Hand? More like Master Bland. How does a frickin' hand even talk anyway?